Today we're going to work on descriptions, and we're going to use the wild robot as inspiration. When you're thinking of description, here are a few tips. First of all, you want to use all the senses so that the reader really feels like they're right there and they're part of your scene. Sense of sight, sense of sound, sense of hearing, sense of touch, and the sense of taste. Let's look at this example. The robot's senses were sharp. She could hear tiny claws scurrying through the trees. She could see bugs hovering in the air. She could feel the warm sun soaking into her metallic body. Do you notice how multiple senses are used in this? The sense of sight, the sense of sound, the sense of touch. And you don't have to describe forever. One of the great things about the wild robot is that it uses small descriptions to really pull us into every scene. The island was quiet. The animals had gone away, and Roz was alone again. Descriptions in setting create atmosphere, draw readers into the world, and build tension. Here, it's a tension between the mechanical world and the natural world. The setting causes problems for Roz, and the description of that setting then is key. Let's look at this example. If you stand in a forest long enough, eventually something will fall on you. And Roz had been standing in the forest long enough. Gentle wind whispered through the treetops, and then thunk. A pine cone bounced off her head. The pine cones here cause problems for poor Roz, but soon she uses those pine cones to fight off some bears. After she fights off those bears, she's really struggling. Make sure that you're giving all the details from your main character's point of view. So now we get a description of her, covered in nature, not really sure what she's going to do. Roz was a mess. She lay under the tree, covered in a heap of broken branches and pine cones and needles. She still hadn't removed the sticky resin from her body. And then there were the bird droppings. Description is best when it's done in the middle of action, because then you have action, plus we get to see what the character is seeing, smelling, tasting, touching. Let's look at this example. Roz was now stomping her way up the mountain. Dense forest and rocky outcrops forced the robot to zig and zag and backtrack. But after an hour of steady hiking, she arrived at the craggy mountain peak. Grasses and flowers and shrubs sprouted from every pocket of soil, but there were no trees at the top. Roz was safe from those annoying pine cones. The more details you give, the more immersive it is to your readers. Sometimes your descriptions can make the reader curious about what's going to happen or what something is. Let's look at this very simple description, and you can figure out what this is. She was about to get up and give herself a rigorous cleaning when she noticed a peculiar twig. The twig was moving right there. You're curious, right? A little detail in the setting, and we want to know, what is that? Why would a twig be moving? If you look closely, you just might see two tiny eyes and two spindly antennae. So now we have a close-up, zoomed-in description of the insect. That's a really great thing to do with your descriptions too. You want to zoom in and out and give lots of detailed objects. It needs to be specific for us to feel like it's real and that we're right there. The wild robot is so good at describing the natural world. Peter Brown uses descriptive language to immerse readers in this setting and to make us feel something. And that's part of what pulls us right into the scene. A huge moment of change for Roz happens when she finds an egg. Her sensitive ears detected a faint peeping sound coming from somewhere nearby. She followed the peeps over to a clump of wet leaves on the ground, and when she peeled back the leaves, she discovered a single perfect goose egg sunk into the mud. Descriptions aren't just about setting a scene. It's about getting into the heart of the characters. We want to put their feeling into it. If you go somewhere and you're in a grumpy mood, the way you see it will be different than if you're in a really great mood. Where did they just come from? How will they see the world? That's a way to show and not tell. The gosling eventually hatches, and Roz calls him Brightbill. Something was happening inside the goose egg. Tap, 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 crunch. A tiny bill poked through the eggshell, peeped once, and then continued crunching away. We want to use similes and metaphors that are unique. You don't want to use things that you've already heard before. Try to be unique. And the way to describe that is to know your characters really well and think how they would describe something. Avoid cliches. For example, let's look at this very simple description. The hole grew bigger and bigger, and then, like a robot breaking from a crate, the hatchling pulled himself out into the world. For describing through the point of view of a character. So how does your character see it? And what specific details would they notice? Here's another example of description. The first time Brightbill flies. Waves rolled in from the horizon. Seagulls circled above the shore. A slight breeze blew up the slope. Brightbill's yellow fluff had recently changed over to a coat of silky brown feathers, and he spread his feathery wings into the breeze. Okay, so give it a try. I love the movie The Wild Robot, and I love the book The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. I highly recommend reading it and then seeing the movie. But if you've already seen the movie, read the book.